We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, so happy to have this guest on the show. We spoke to him a few times in the past, several times in the past, and I'm so grateful to have him back for the first time on Zoom. It was always Skype before, but we're so happy to have you back on. We are talking about top 10, and the man should be top 5. We're going to maybe find out in a second. UFC featherweight contender Josh Emmett. Have they disclosed what number is next to your name right now?
Yeah, I think I took my number 6 spot back. I was ranked number 6, and then they put Arnold Allen in front of me, and then after the win, um, on the 11th, I took my number 6 spot back. So didn't really move up much. I knew I wouldn't, but that's okay. Rankings don't mean anything to me.
No, exactly. And I will say this, and I've said it on this show many times, that despite all the love that lightweight gets, I feel that featherweight is the most stacked division. It's like you said, you got yourself, you got Arnold Allen, you got Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, Javier Rodriguez, not Javier,
Jair.
Yair Rodriguez. Sorry, my mind's getting faded here this hour. Yair Rodriguez, right? The Korean Zombies, Zabit Megamed Sharapov, Calvin Cater, Dan Ige. I mean, this is, I think you'd probably agree, even if you weren't in the featherweight division, if you weren't Josh Emmett, wouldn't you think the featherweight is probably one of the most stacked, if not stacked, divisions out there?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think it's always like the average, I guess you could say male size or whatnot. It's like
Right.
I think the featherweights and the lightweights are the most stacked divisions in the entire UFC, and it's kind of hard to, you know, the lightweights. There's like maybe top 10, top 15, but I'm telling you, the featherweights they go on and on. It's just down the list. It is so stacked, and at any moment, anyone could compete or fight or win a fight in the top 5. You know what I mean? On any given day, if they show up on their best, they show up with their best performance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. So, Dan Ige fight, looking at that fight, I think that you probably knew going into this fight that this was a guy that was going to be tough. I don't know if you tend to think to yourself, I can take out anyone, and you want to keep that mindset, or if you go into a fight saying, I'm probably not going to take this guy out. What is your concept on that? Because you're known to be a guy that can take anyone out. Do you like to think about that and assume you can? Do you not think about that at all? Or are there some fighters where you say, I probably am not going to take this guy out? What do you think? Or stop this guy?
No, there's no one that I say I'm not going to take him out. I feel like I possess a different type of power, and it doesn't matter, featherweight, lightweight, whoever they are. If I land a clean shot, I'll put anyone down, even given their their weight. But I know Dan Ige, he's super tough dude. He was undefeated, or not undefeated. He was never finished. So really durable guy. And I fought a lot of guys that have never been knocked out, and I was the one to be the first one to knock them out. So I was going in there to you know try to finish him, but I almost got him out of there in the first round. But he recovered so fast, and I was pretty surprised by that. But at the end of the day, I'm going in there to win. Whatever I have to do, I'm going to get my hand raised, and I just played it kind of safe in that fight. He was throwing hard. We both respected each other's power, and I was more cautious of the takedown. I knew he would want to get in there and grapple me and get me to the ground. So I think that's kind of why I wasn't just, pushing forward and being as aggressive as I typically do, because that's when, if he changed levels and shot a double leg when I was overcommitting, that's when he would get me down. And you saw it in the fight. He shot multiple takedowns. So I just had to play it safe.
Yeah. Do you think he wanted to make it a jiu-jitsu match, a grappling match?
Yeah, no, I like it's hard because you see where a lot of his fights, and he's so well rounded. But he is a BJJ black belt. He wrestled D3, um, and I think I have the advantage on the feet with landing a big strike. where I think he did want to make it a grappling match, or mix things up at least. And, that's why it was a little different, the fight, how it played out than he thought, than I thought, than the fans thought. But it was still, I watched the fight, and it was still a good fight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know anyone complaining about that being a dull fight or anything. Knowing what you know now on how it played out, would you have changed anything if you could, looking back on it?
Yeah, maybe just I would have been try to be a little more active. I went back, I watched the fight, and I'm always my toughest critic.
Right.
And so I was just watching it, and I was like, oh man, I should have done this, should have done that. But it is what it is. I needed to go in there. I needed to get a win, and I went in after 18 months of not fighting at all, and beat a tough Dan Ige, and he's been active the whole time, fighting some of the best guys in the world. He's coming off 2 big main event slots, and yeah, it was relatively, like, when I look at it and how I feel, like, I feel great. I'm not injured at all. Of course, in a fight, you're going to feel a little banged up and, bruised a little bit, but I'll be back in practice. I'm actually going to start hitting with my boxing coach tomorrow. So I just took, a week off, and then I'm going to get back to practice here tomorrow. And, yeah, just kind of take it from there. But it was relatively, not that tough of a fight.
Right, which is amazing because a lot of Ige's fights, people get smashed up, pretty badly. Was this the first fight recovering from surgery for you, or was that the previous fight?
Yeah,
it was.
No, the Burgos fight was when I actually tore my ACL, and this is the first fight back in 18 months. So I didn't do, it was just, I don't know, like, I don't believe in ring rust, because I'm so prepared and everything. But
right.
Yeah, I played it safe in practice and everything, just so I could get to the fight. And and then I fought, and that built the confidence in my knee. I know my knee is super strong, my knee is great.
Right.
But you still have that, in the back of your head. And then after he started kicking me in the leg, and that was the first time I've been kicked in the leg for 18 months.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, my leg is strong, it can hold up. And so I'm glad I didn't get the finish in that first round, because it would have been like a minute into the first round, then I still would have had, those thoughts in the back of my mind, like, oh, is my knee 100%? Is it strong going into my next fight? But I went in there for 15 minutes with a tough Dan Ige. We did a little bit of grappling. He was kicking that leg, and yeah, it worked out well. So I'm back to 100%. I'm back to, I'm ready to get back to training and do it again.
Absolutely, and it makes sense. Like the fact that that he had been fighting a lot, you had 18 months off, and it was your first fight back. It really makes sense, actually, the way you did fight. It really does. I was actually thinking, I wonder if odds makers or people that are really gambling focused. I mean, I talk about it. I'm aware of it. Years back, I was a professional sports gambler for a brief time, and on occasion I'll do it, but I'll always put out my picks. But I wonder if people setting the odds or people that want to bet will look at a situation where they'll say this fighter's been off from a surgery for a year and a half and possibly try to fade that fighter. Now, if they did against you, they would have lost their money. But I think it is really a real thing that in the first fight back for a fighter, they're going to maybe want to be a little bit smarter. And it doesn't mean they're going to lose, but it definitely means that you're not quite 100% as comfortable as you used to be, or as you probably will be in your next fight. Do you think Dan Ige and his camp were thinking about that at all? Do you think they might have thought that might have been also partly why they would have liked to have gotten it to the ground? Because they might have figured, going there, taking you down hard, maybe injuring your leg a little bit, which maybe they would think may not be healed, and causing you to be tentative might have been part of the game plan?
No, I don't think they were so concerned about, trying to hurt me, just because I know he's not, he's a good guy. He's not like in that way, but I knew they would target my leg. I know their camp is big with calf kicks and stuff like that. I knew people were going to try to, kick that knee and kick that calf, which they did. but yeah, as far as odds come into play, I'm not sure. But if you look at a lot of my fights and stuff like that, I've had all these wins. I have some type of injury or setback, and I take a year off or a year and a half off, and I typically come back stronger than when I left off. So people looking in, if they did their homework and their research, then they would see that as well. I was surprised that I opened up as such a big favorite.
Yeah.
And then obviously the line started to move because everyone was betting on Ige and stuff like that because he was a big underdog. And then it kind of, I think he finished at like a plus 125 or something.
It was really close to the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was pretty almost like a pick 'em, but even like you're saying. So yeah, I'm usually the underdog by a long shot. So that's always nice because I have a lot of people that make a lot of money on me.
Right.
And I was really hoping that I would have been an underdog for this one as well. I had some friends. One of my friends bet 20 grand on me. And so he made a nice little payday. I wish I was an underdog. He would have made a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. When it came time for the decision, and you knew it was a good fight, you knew maybe you were a little bit less aggressive than you normally are. Did you have any fear about what the decision was going to be, or what was your thought? And do you normally think about anything when you're waiting the few minutes for the decision to be announced?
Yeah, no, and I'm always like, I'm a cerebral fighter. I'm always thinking. I'm talking to my coaches in the corner. I'm like super calm. So it's like I know I won the first round. I know the second round was close. I was like, okay, we'll just give it to him. And then my coaches are like, just be more active in this one. Stop trying to knock him out, box him a little. So I just came out and I was just more active. I had for a lot of times had a lot of octagon control. I was in the center, a lot of movement. If you watch the fight, again, he's not really hitting me much. So I moved a lot more in the third instead of just kind of staying complacent in the second. When I landed big shots, I knew he felt them. And so I don't know. I knew after the fight was up, I was like, I told him I won 1 and 3. We'll give him 2 just to be safe. And that's exactly what the judges had on their scorecards. 2 of the judges gave me 2 rounds and him 1. And then one of them gave me 30-27, which I see a lot of people, saying things about that. But it's like, if you go back and watch the second round, it's still, it's still like it's just a close round. It's coin flips, it just depends on who you're in favor of or who's your guy, who you're rooting for. Then of course you're going to lean towards that person.
Absolutely. Well, did Dominic Cruz fight on that same card, or was it the one after?
Yeah, he fought right before me. I think he fought right before I did. Him and Munoz.
And talk about an example like yourself coming back from injuries, man. That guy's had 4 or 5 knee surgeries. It's funny though. He's like a long time. Yeah. He's a long time adversary of your team. I was just realizing, but I think him and Uriah kind of came to a peaceful relationship, didn't they? Or does Alpha Male still hate that guy?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's like some of the individuals, they have their little rivalries with him. I actually talked to him after my post-fight interview with the media, the little press conference. And I quoted him too, because I was saying how Dominic Cruz says there's no such thing as ring rust. And man, I've always liked the guy, yep. And we talked after too. And he was just, he was talking about my knee and he's like, I know he knows, like just what you were saying. He knows what it's like to come back from something like that. He said, I did a great job. Just keep doing what I'm doing and stuff. And, we're cordial and he's always sticking up for me, even in the commentating, when people are not biased towards me, but kind of talking more about the other guy, then he'll kind of stick up for me commentating team. So it's kind of cool, but I like the guy.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, he's a unique dude. I think he always has had a little bit of a heel personality, but he seems like a decent dude. I remember back in the WEC watching, as I did, I watched both of his fights with Uriah, and I remember in one of his early fights, they interviewed him, and he said he lives in an apartment with 2 cats who are his best friends. And I remember thinking, I kind of like that, man. It's just like a real dude, coming off. He's got his cats, and he's just chilling at home. And I thought, how bad can a guy be? if he's got two animals that he's taking care of that are his best friends. Right? So I always thought, but man, how he keeps coming back, man. And like in that fight, because Munoz was a tough guy. Munoz really wanted that win. I think Munoz had just lost to Aldo, and I think it was a really quick turnaround. They're doing a lot of this stuff in the pandemic. I mean, it's like sometimes a little crazy where I think they're not even giving a guy a chance to heal up. But Munoz, I think, was a slight favorite there, and Dom just did his thing, man. He's just like, his style is so weird where he's got the side-to-side movement, and then he'll feint. He'll keep on feinting. And he does that weird thing where like almost sticks his head out and pulls it back. And I remember someone saying that he would spend a couple hours just moving in a gym himself, and people would look and say, what the hell is that guy doing? Yeah, they'd be like, why is he alone just moving? And they're like, because he's really he really wants to have unique movement that's hard for people to get. And it seems like it's paid off. It's just a unique style, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a one of a kind, and he moves so well, and he has such a high output too. He doesn't stop throwing, and then he's really good with, he'll take someone down, he'll dump them, or he'll get into a clinch, and he's always breaking off the clinch. So he has a unique style, and I think one of the best. And it's cool to see that he's been around since the WEC days. He was the champion, and he's still doing really well as he's getting older in the sport. It just gives, not that it gives me hope, because I think we're around the same age, but I got into it a lot later. So he has a lot more like wear and tear on his body.
Right.
But it's just cool. Like I'm always rooting for the older guys. I'm always rooting for anyone with like, coming off the injuries and stuff like that as well.
Me too. You must have been happy when Glover Teixeira won the title a couple months back.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
I had a feeling he could. I actually think I bet $25 on him. I don't tend to bet much, but I just felt that he had the skill set to beat Jan. Did you feel that going in, or was that a toss-up fight for you?
Man, it was tough. Like going into it, I was like, okay, if Jan catches, like, he has the power, he has the advantage on the feet, his striking. But Glover, it's like, if he can just stay in the fight and maybe it goes a few rounds, or I'm like, he gets him against the cage and dirty boxes him and then gets him down, then I'm like, it's a wrap, And of course, Glover Teixeira, he's been around for so long, fought for the title a long time ago, didn't get it. And it was cool just to see him back there. And then I was like, even though Blachowicz is such a good guy and a great champion and stuff, it's hard to root against him. But I just wanted it for Teixeira, because he's been he's a pioneer of the sport, a legend, and it's really neat to see him just get the job done and accomplish. He's accomplished everything in the sport, and now he's accomplished literally everything. So it's like he can defend it as long as he wants, or he can go out whenever he wants, and he did everything in the sport.
Absolutely. At 42 years old, it was amazing. Back to Dominic Cruz real quick. What would be a great next fight for him? I'm thinking a fight with Jose Aldo would be a really unique one. What do you think?
Yeah, I've seen people trying to match them up as well, and they want to see that. It's like, it's two legends in the sport. It would definitely be, an exciting fight and a technical fight. Yeah, it would be cool too, because just to see those guys fight. And it would be tough too, because like you said, Dominic uses so much movement, and he would just mix a little bit of everything up. But Aldo has that great boxing. If he could bring those leg kicks back, it would definitely be an exciting fight for the fans. I'm sure who wouldn't want to see that, so I agree with you. That would be we'll see if the matchmakers can pull that together.
Exactly. Talking about featherweight, so much interesting stuff going on there. Were you surprised to see Yair do so well against Max Holloway a couple months ago? I wasn't. I told people at like plus 500 or plus 600. I told people don't put your paycheck on there, but put like $20 on him or $40 on him. And he looked like, that looked like an even fight in there. Max did win, but I knew that I really felt that would be close. Did you, or did you think Max would win it easier?
No, I thought, Yair's he's good, man. Like he's young. He's took some time off. He's been working more on his wrestling and jujitsu, and his striking is great. You know what I mean? He's fast and explosive, and yeah, that was a crazy fight back and forth. There was multiple times where it's like I thought Yair was going to catch him, and then Max would catch him, and it was back and forth for 5 rounds, and like man, I after those guys were all done fighting, it's like, how his foot was messed up. They're all banged up. I was like, shit, I wonder how long he's going to take off after that. You know what I mean?
I was just going to say that because people that have trained a little bit understand a little bit what it's like to maybe be kicked in the ribs and punched in the face maybe a couple times, but people like yourself really know what it feels like when you watch a fight like that. You can probably feel like what those shots probably feel like. I mean, those guys. When do you start feeling it after the fight? A couple hours later, or the next morning? When do you feel like literally all those shots, like someone just dropped you on the cement and dragged you, a couple hundred
It's
yards?
it's it's kind of right after. It's like a lot of times I've had some fights where I'm walking out of the cage, and it's like I think both my feet are broken, and then in the back, it's like after you sit down for a while and you get up, but it's really the next morning is the worst for me. Like I start to feel things as the night goes on,
Hmm.
but it's the next morning. It's like I'm just laying in bed, and I'm just like even this one, I was sore for a week or so,
Yeah.
and it wasn't even a crazy fight, but I think about like the Burgos fight. Not only did I tear my ACL and have all those other crazy injuries in my knee, but my whole body was just banged up, like literally from my toe to my head and all my limbs, my knuckles, like my neck, everything. It literally feels like I was in a car and they just like dropped me off a cliff and I'm just rolling down the hill.
Yeah.
And it lasts for so long. And I think I have so much like inflammation and pain in my body, but other areas hurt so bad. But when those areas start to subside and go down a little, then I start to feel it's like things shift. But it's like I think those were there the whole time, but they just weren't as prevalent because I'm so focused on something that hurts so much more. It's just a weird thing. And then it's like we're in this pain and all this stuff, but then it's like once that kind of goes away, it's like, damn, I want to hop back in and do it again. It's like
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you're having a lot of injuries after a fight, do you eat like more protein after that or more carbs, or is there something that you can do medically? Obviously, I'm sure some people are taking pain relievers. Do muscle relaxants come in? Are you getting a massage maybe every other day, or taking a bath, or is there anything that would be unique for people to know that maybe fighters might do after a really hard fight for that week or 2 weeks to try to help the healing?
yeah, I think a lot of it is yeah, you have to do everything like recovery related. So it's like go get a massage, stretch, do some cold plunges, do Epsom salt soak baths, drink a lot of water. Um, but it's almost like I do that, but I eat so clean up to a fight, and then it's like afterwards I'm like probably eating everything I shouldn't. You know what I mean? I'm like
Right.
having all this sodium and sugar and things like that, and I just feel puffy and gross. But it's like it's like I do it anyways. But yeah, I just take some time off, and um, if something's really bad, then I'll just take some Advil or anti-inflammatories for a few days, and then like I said, do the cold plunge, do the Epsom soak baths, and just kind of relax. Try to stay off like the phone, like all the blue light stuff, so not watching much TV, staying off the phone, just so you know because it can kind of affect your your head as well, if you're having headaches or anything. So i I try to do that and just kind of enjoy family and friends, and just kind of relax with my wife, and then when I start to feel better, I'll get back to training.
That makes sense. Well, we got 5 minutes left with you, Josh. I want to talk about the featherweight division. So it looks like Volkanovski is going to get Max again. Has that been confirmed that you've heard, or still in the works?
See, I'm not too sure, but I want to say they're fighting March 5th. Like what I thought I saw something, but maybe I'm wrong. I thought they were fighting March 5th.
Okay, I think you could be right. So other than that, Brian Ortega with a loss, I think moves behind you guys. So other than Max, you're up there. Who's ahead of you? Who's ahead of you then? Is Yair still there,
The
or is it Zabit?
Yeah, the only I'm not sure with that too. His loss, like the only person that's in front of me coming off a win is and that's not booked is Korean Zombie, you know. So it's like that would be awesome to fight Korean Zombie in a title eliminator, and then the winner gets the winner of the trilogy fight.
That would be really cool. That would be a really unique fight. I'm sure you've been aware of the Zombie for quite a long time. What I know
Yeah.
that like Zabit before he got hurt was up there, and any word about him? Is he still out or is he back in the mix?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know because when is his last fight? His last fight was like 2.5 years ago or
Yeah,
something.
it was. Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure. I thought he had something going on where he needed surgery that I read something a few years ago, but I have no idea
Gotcha.
if he's gonna fight even again. I
Right.
don't know.
I sure hope so. 'Cause he's a unique dude. I remember a lot of people would
Yep.
say that Abraham Lincoln guy. Because doesn't he look a little bit like our President Lincoln, from Dagestan, if he was from Dagestan, you know what I mean? But no, he's a unique dude. So then Giga Chikadze just had that good win over Barbosa and a couple other guys, but he's ranked behind you. But he's an interesting contender, training over there with Benil Dariush and the guys over at Kings. So if it was Korean Zombie, I know you'd be happy. Who else? Because I know you're not wanting to fight someone 5 or 8 spots behind you, but who would be
Yeah.
reasonable for you? Calvin Cater or no? Or would Giga be
No,
reasonable?
because
No.
I think Giga and Calvin Cater are fighting soon. So there's no one available in front of me. Like I really want a title eliminator. I fought everybody behind me, and I'm like one of the only guys that they only offer me fights behind me. Everyone else, they're not even ranked in the top 15, and then they get a fight in the
Yeah.
top 10, and then they're
Yeah.
fighting someone in the top 5. I'm like,
Yeah, it's not right.
I don't really get it. So yeah, I will not fight anyone. I do not want to fight anyone behind me.
Right.
I want my next fight to be a title eliminator, and there's only one guy coming off a win that's available, and I would love to fight him.
Right, because otherwise, coming off a loss is Ortega, but would they still have him ahead of you?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably they'll probably because he fought Max a long time ago. Then he was ranked, I think 2 for a year. The time he was off,
Right.
for the year and a half he was off, then came back, beat Zombie, and then he lost. Who did he lose to? Oh, Volkanovski.
That's right.
And then he's still ranked right there. So yeah, all the guys like in front of me just stay up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
whether they take time off or something,
Or if they lose,
and
even
they don't move.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because you would think they should. Like you should be probably 2 or 3. But either way,
Yeah.
I mean, if they're gonna give, if they're gonna give you someone off a win, it's got to be Zombie, because Max is gonna be fighting the champ. So it would be Zombie, and if they were gonna give you someone off a loss, then it would be Ortega. And unless, do they ever ask you in a situation where a big title fight is coming with Max and Volkanovski, would they ever ask you if you could be ready on that night in case something goes wrong? Has that ever happened to you? What would you think if it did, and how does that work out?
Yeah, no, it hasn't happened to me, but they do that for main event slots, especially title fights. So yeah, I would love to, be a part of something like that. Like they would just have me have to make the weight, you know what I mean? And then I would get paid to.
Looks like the screen froze with Josh, but we might get him back. Josh, can you hear me? Josh Emmett, can you hear me? Josh, can you hear me?
Yes, there we go.
So you were saying you get paid. Was it something like a minimum or some amount or something?
Yeah, I think it just depends. So they were saying typically if it's a main event slot, it's a title fight, they'll have a backup just in case something happens. And yeah, I would do that. I would just need to know soon, if they're going to fight March 5th. Yeah, I would just have to know so I could start getting my weight down and doing all that.
That makes sense. So you really should have one more victory and then a title fight, unless you get a title fight next. But would your feeling be it's either one more victory and then a title fight, or a title fight? No other situation.
Yeah, no, it's really whatever the UFC. I haven't got to fight anyone in the top five, so I could see a lot of people complaining and saying how's he deserve a title fight, but right off the bat. But I would take it if something happened. I would take it in a heartbeat, or if there was an injury of some sort, or or if I can just get a title eliminator my next fight, and then the winner get the shot at the title. So I have 2 fights left on my contract, and so if I could write it out perfect, title eliminator, win the title.
Absolutely. And Volkanovski would be a really interesting matchup with you. You'd have a rare situation where I think you'd have a slight height advantage. And
for once,
you're right. Yep, exactly. And I think you have the one punch power. He'd be an interesting matchup because you're both so dynamic. I'm sure you'd like that fight. It'd be exciting. Have you thought about it? Have you played it out in your head?
I would love that fight. Like he's the best. Like you can't. The guy's undefeated in the UFC. He's beat the best of the best. He is the best in the division. And I always said it'd be awesome to fight him. You know what I mean? Just because. We're so similar, and it's like stylistically, I think everyone in front of me, him and I match up the best.
Yeah, I think it'd be a really exciting fight. I really got to believe in 2022 we're going to see you fighting for the title, and hope it's under the best circumstances where you're getting a full training camp. Although if they have you as a backup for Holloway and Volk, then at least they'd give you some time as well. It almost seems like that almost never happens, though, where a title fight falls through and the backup comes into it. I can't even remember a time when it did, although I know in some situations I think something like that happens, or they find a guy last second. I forget what it was, where one guy wouldn't fly.
I remember back in the day in Sacramento when TJ Dillashaw was going to fight, I think, Henan Barral. That happened. I think something happened with Henan on making weight. He fell or something and had to go to the hospital. So Joe Soto filled in like last minute. And then, of course, Ali Aquinta fought Khabib last minute as well.
Right. That's
so it's like it does happen. And hey, man, I would take that opportunity in a heartbeat. You wouldn't even have to ask me. You'd already know the answer.
Awesome. And I think getting this fight under your belt, assuming that you will be fighting again somewhere in the next several months, you'll be back in the groove. You're not going to have to worry about being careful the first time back from surgery. Yeah. So I think we're going to see an even better Josh Emmett than we saw last Saturday, and you looked darn good then. Well, Josh Emmett, what's the best place for people to support you on social media? Or you have any gear or anything that you're selling or anything? Let us know real quick, and then we'll jump off in a minute.
It's Josh Emmett UFC on Twitter and Instagram. It's JOSHEMMETT UFC. I have, a Facebook page, Josh Emmett, and then everything that everyone that supports me and all my sponsors and everything I'm a part of is on my website at joshemmett.com. I have some apparel on there as well if people want to check out my website.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it, Josh. You're out there representing Sacramento and Team Alpha Male, an amazing team, man. And big respect to you. Always appreciate your time, man. I'm such a big fan of yours, and can't wait to see you kill it in 2022. And wish you have a very happy holidays and a happy New Year, my friend.
Cool. Thank you. That's the plan. And thanks for having me on. And you have a great Christmas as well.
Will do. Merry Christmas.